Hello once again, YouTube. Chris and I bringing you some StarMade new in Fleetworks, and we're going to do our second part of the Amarrian showcase today. We are going to look at the industrial ships, the battle cruisers, and the battleships. We will be saving all of their capitals for capital ship showcases, which deserve their own video entirely, of course. And so I'm sitting here on a ship, and this is actually the cargo bay door of the Sigil, which is one of the industrial ships of the Amarr, and as you can see, you're getting an idea for the scale of this thing. So let me jump off, hop into my core over here, which I will promptly remove the speediness of it, so I'm not zipping around too much. We'll just zoom away from this and give you an idea as to the scale of the industrial ships of Eve, which are pretty significant. It's quite obvious that this thing is massive, and that to me is awesome. The amount of internal space is pretty ridiculous, but at the same time, there's a lot of internal structure dedicated to the maintaining of the cargo. Things like cranes and different like little, I assume some sort of like trolleys or lifts or carts that allow cargo to be shifted around inside, as well as a whole bunch of area for the crew to occupy. So this is the smaller of the industrial ships for the Eve, or the Amarr, not the Eve, the Amarr. And here we have the slightly larger Bestower. And I am actually not entirely sure where the cargo bay doors are on this. It could be that the cargo bay doors are right here, actually, and that might make sense. Depends. If we look up in here, maybe this is some sort of lowering platform that extends down into this area where the cargo is loaded. That's entirely possible. There's potentially a door that is on the texture of the model that I am not seeing here because it is not physically modeled into the ship. But that is just a very, very large cargo transport ship. Real quick, we'll just look at the inside and take a look at the internals of this, just so you guys can get an idea as to how large it is. I mean, think about all the space. Your character would be walking around down here. Quite impressive, if you ask me. Of course, it looks like this entire section, at least from here back, would be dedicated to engines, which is pretty nuts. And it makes sense. You need those big engines for a ship this big. Big everything, right? So that is the Sigil and Praetor, and now we can move on to the battle cruisers. I also mentioned in the last video that we would talk a little bit about where the Amarr are in the current state of EVE Online, because it turns out they're getting a lot of RP lore-based events happening that revolve around the Amarr. And basically, the Amarr are currently at war with a new faction called the Drifters. We don't really know what this new faction is all about, but we have an idea. They seem to be tied to a stellar anomaly that occurred in Jovian space, basically a massive explosion or something in Jove space. We are not able to actually visit this explosion site or this anomaly, but we could see it across all of the star cluster at the same time, which doesn't make sense because light takes time to travel, and the stars that you could see it from are light years apart, so it would quite literally take many years before it reached one end or the other, and we could see it all at once. So there's this massive explosion, this stellar anomaly that the Drifters are associated with, and they also appear to be affiliated with the Sleepers, which are another race that we will talk about later down the line. And basically the Drifters came along and assassinated the Empress of the Amarr Empire, and they are currently holding trials to find out who the next Emperor or Empress will be. And yeah, so that's pretty exciting stuff in terms of lore for EVE, because there's not been a lot of that in recent years, and now it's kind of picking up and it's really interesting. So yeah, of course we have the Harbinger, the Prophecy, and the Oracle here. For some reason I think I imported the incorrect model of the Harbinger, but that's okay. I know Aceface has a Prophecy model of his own, which is pretty neat, and I'm definitely looking forward to completing my own when I get the chance. And of course you can see with the new import process that these edges are a lot cleaner and will be nicer to work with than they were previously. I had started an Oracle in the past, but it's just much more worth it, I think, to start over with a cleaner slate, a cleaner model, and just work with that. This is one of the most iconic Amarr ships, at least. This ship right here. Which is pretty damn awesome. It's a very vertical ship, which is uncommon for Amarr. They're mostly lengthier ships than they are vertical. More lengthy than they are vertical. So yeah. Now I'm going to travel over here, and hopefully the battleships have loaded by the time I have gone over here. Also, it seems to be glitching a little bit, and I'm getting only about 23 FPS, so having all three of these battleships in the same sector is a pretty bad idea, but I don't really want to go to like 20 different sectors to spawn all these ships in, so we're just going to have to deal with it. But these are the Amarrian battleships, and these things are quite literally a kilometer long in length. I could not import the Abaddon in its the new process, so this is what we are stuck with. We've got some very strange visual glitches going on as well. Don't think that's supposed to be happening. It's all wavy. So here's the Abaddon. This will be one hell of a ship when it's completed. I know players would be definitely interested in flying this thing around and bashing the shit out of people with it. We have cargo bay doors that would be built right in front of me on that flat surface. Very large cargo bay doors. And the bridge is somewhere along this front section. Probably not on this upper section, but it's possible. I don't think it would be. I mean, this is pretty impressive, let me tell you. Let me just fly down into this lower crevice type of area. Just show you the scale of this thing. Since the Amarr are religious, it's entirely possible that we'll be seeing massive cathedrals on the ships of this size, which will be pretty interesting and kind of exciting because it's not something you usually find on a spaceship, a massive cathedral. But there is one quite visibly present on the Apocalypse, which we will take a look at in a moment. So yeah, I am personally excited for when I get to buy an Amarr battleship in EVE so that I can finally start building one in StarMade. For example, right here, I think this would be a perfect place to put a cathedral. Something where all these arches line up to meet and kind of lead you towards having some nice windows. Of course, it's entirely dependent on what the actual ship looks like in this area. So yeah. Next up we have the Armageddon, which is another battleship, of course. Quite a well-known Amarr battleship. You can see where the turret hardpoints are on the side there. You can also get an idea as to how large the turrets are on these ships. And it's quite obvious as well where the bridge is. If you could just imagine having a bridge section over here on this ship. Somewhere around here. If we take a look inside real quick at just the massive amount of space inside this thing. This entire area is dedicated to the command structure of the ship, or the command sections of the ship. We'll fly down to the drone bay, which this ship does have. I'm not sure if the other battleships have drone bays. I know the Apocalypse does, and we'll take a look at that in a moment. But there's the drone bay. Pretty neat. It might even be large enough for a shuttle, but I'm not entirely sure. And it's not exactly common to dock your shuttles to even battleships. Carriers are usually what players would be docking other ships into. So yeah, pretty freaking awesome. Very interesting design. Despite it being Amarr, it doesn't have as many of those curvaceous, big, broad crescent shapes along its hull. It's a little bit more thinner. Oh my god, my FPS. It's dying. So, we're now going to take a look at the Apocalypse, which is no doubt the most famous Amarrian ship, and a very famous EVE Online ship in general. So here it is, in all its glory. Of course, this is the new version of the Apocalypse, which was introduced a few years ago. There's an older version that looks similar, but is a little bit more basic. This is a very much advanced and updated version of the Apocalypse, and I quite like it. This will be an exciting ship to build. It's going to be one hell of a build, let me tell you. The armor thickness on this thing is like 15 meters, which is ridiculous. And I plan on fully putting on 15 meters worth of armor, because that is just awesome. And it will actually make this thing hard as balls to kill, which I'm thoroughly excited about. I mean, just look at this. Look at this. Look how thick that armor is. That is quite crazy. I can't imagine how massive this thing is. And of course it's over 1 kilometer long, which is even equally just as ridiculous. If we come down here, this is actually the location of a noticeable cathedral on the Amarr Apocalypse. And if we were to stand right here and look up, we would see 3 stained glass windows in arches that extended up to the top there. So that'll be pretty interesting when I get to it. That is where the cathedral will go. There may be more than one. Who knows? On a ship this large, it would make sense to have different religious gathering spots for all of the crew members, which probably numbers into thousands. Very mechanical underside with that armor on top. Here are the drone bays. This thing would be capable of launching large-sized drones. So there's plenty of space for them. You saw those drones in the last episode, so the third one from the right, I believe, would be something that you could launch from this ship. The fighter drones and bombers are something reserved for carriers, unfortunately, but that's okay. I don't know why, but it imported the entire ship as blue in the new import process, so I will be doing my whole recolorization of it when I do the wireframe. It's going to take a while, that's for sure. And here are the engines. These engines will probably be a little bit more detailed as well, considering their size. Just look at that. Just the engine section alone is enough to make you really want to fly this thing. That is for certain going to be a capital ship when I am done. By then, capital ship systems will probably be in StarMade, so it'll fit quite nicely. And even if we go on top real quick, I can show you the ridiculous depth to some of this armor. There's these little pylon-looking things over here as well. Got some structures up here. I thought there was a crack in the armor here. Maybe I'm thinking of a different ship. Of course, it's kind of layered on. You can see where it's layered on. So yeah. This will be an exciting project, that's for sure. I have no idea how long a ship this size will take me, but I am looking forward to it. So there we have it. Those are the Amarrian ships. That concludes our showcase of the Amarrian ships. That is it for now, and the next episode of the showcase will be going over Gallente designs. Everything from drones to cruisers in one episode, and the industrials, battleships, and battlecruisers in the second. And then we'll move on to Caldari. And then from there on out, it's probably stuff that you really have not seen at all before. Things like Sleepers, Talocan, you know, the Sisters of Eve, which you've sort of seen a little bit of, and we'll be talking about them as well. So that'll be exciting. Leave your feedback down below for a chance, leave a comment down below for a chance to win a Khador Edition Punisher, since this is an Amarr video. And I thank you for watching, subscribe for more, and I will see you all next time. And so I'm sitting here on a ship, and this is actually the cargo bay door of the Sigil, which is one of the industrial ships of the Amarr. And as you can see, you're getting an idea for the scale of this thing. So let me jump off, hop into my core over here, which I will promptly remove the speedy structure dedicated to the maintaining of the cargo. Things like cranes and different like little, I assume some sort of like trolleys or lifts or carts that allow cargo to be shifted around inside, as well as a whole bunch of area for the crew to occupy. So this is the smaller of the industrial ships for the Eve, or the Amarr, not the Eve, the Amarr. And here we have the slightly larger Bestower. And I am actually not entirely sure where the cargo bay doors are on this. It could be that the cargo bay doors are right here, actually, and that might make sense. Depends. If we look up in here, maybe this is some sort of lowering platform that extends down into this area where the cargo is loaded. That's entirely possible. There's potentially... Hello once again, YouTube. Chris and I bringing you some StarMade new in Fleetworks, and we're going to do our second part of the Amarrian showcase today. We are going to look at the industrial ships, the battle cruisers, and the battleships. We will be saving all of their capitals for capital ship showcases, which deserve their own video entirely. Of course, of it, so I'm not zipping around too much. We'll just zoom away from this and give you an idea as to the scale of the industrial ships of Eve, which are pretty significant. It's quite obvious that this thing is massive, and that to me is awesome. The amount of internal space is pretty ridiculous, but at the same time, there's a lot of internal